Welcome back, YouTube. Today we're making kind of a new style of video here today. It's going to be kind of I'm going to be talking and playing a little college football. I'm going to be talking about the two teams that anyone who is, probably people that only watch my videos are from Mississippi, but anyone who in Mississippi knows that they're the two most popular football and overall sports teams in Mississippi, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Um, these are two very different fan bases. I really never talked about these two teams a lot. As you can see, I am an Ole Miss fan. I've said that multiple times on here. I love Ole Miss. I have since I was a little kid, and I always will love Ole Miss. I don't care how bad they are. I don't care how good they are. Um, and of course, Ole Miss's arch rivals is Mississippi State. In my opinion, and this is my preference, I necessarily don't hate Ole Miss. No, my bad. I don't necessarily hate Mississippi State. I know some Mississippi State or Ole Miss fans, like, genuinely, they hate Ole Miss. I know that some of them generally do hate Ole Miss. And, they're your rivals, and we don't like each other. Ole Miss and Mississippi State do not like each other whatsoever. They actually, in my opinion, hate each other. And I think that they would say that, too. Mississippi State fans would say that, too. But, and I'm looking at this from more a standpoint. I hate LSU more than anybody, if you want to be honest. I hate LSU more than I hate Mississippi State by tenfold. I think it's that big of a margin that I hate LSU more. I don't know why. LSU has always had more. I don't want to say that we're that much better than Mississippi State, but had more success. If you Google it, you see the series record. Ole Miss has it over Mississippi State, and you never know what can happen in those games. It's always going to be a close game. It doesn't depend how good the other one is, but if you look at it, Ole Miss does have the season series over have the all-time series over Mississippi State, and it's no knock to Mississippi State. They're not a bad team. Well, this year they are, but overall as a history, they're not a terrible team, even though they are under 500 overall as a record for football. But they're usually a solid team. They're having two pretty bad seasons, but it is a rebuilding season for Mississippi State. And to look at it from a standpoint in Ole Miss, we're going to talk about the season right here. We're going to talk about all three major sports: basketball, football, and baseball. We're going to start with the current sport going on right now, which is football. I'll just say this: we're going to start with Ole Miss. It's been very disappointing so far. For 7 weeks, God, I can't talk. Through the first 7 weeks, Ole Miss, of course, is 5-2, with their two losses coming to SEC opponents in Kentucky, and just recently this Saturday against LSU. The loss against LSU, I'm gonna touch on that. Terrible loss. We should not have lost that game. LSU, congratulations to them. They won the game, but it was our game to lose, and we lost. So I'm obviously going to be sad that we took the loss, because I don't think that we deserve to lose that game. My bad. I think we deserve to lose that game. But should we have lost the game? No. We had every chance to win. We should have blew them out. I'm sorry. I don't want to make excuses why we lost. I think even LSU fans would say that we should have blew them out if our offense was any good, because our defense stopped them the entire game, and we couldn't stop them late. And I'm not mad and I'm obviously a little mad that we couldn't stop them late, but I'm disappointed too. But I think that our season, it's not entirely over with the 12-team playoff. We still have a chance, even with two losses. That's the really great thing about the 12-team that I love about this new thing, that even a team like before with the 4-team playoff, if you have two losses, you're necessarily done. There's probably maybe a 1% chance you can still make it, and you have to win out entirely by a good margin, and against really good teams. So with the 12-team playoff, I think there will be at least one team in there with two losses to get in, and maybe two. I think Ole Miss, right now I'm looking at, I predict that we probably won't make the college football playoff. I'm not saying it's entirely impossible for us not to make it. I think that we can. Will we? Most likely not, because of one game on our schedule. I think the loss to Kentucky, I don't want to make excuses for why we lost. We lost the game. Congratulations, Kentucky. But I think that it was a lucky loss. It was like Notre Dame and Northern Illinois. I think if we played Kentucky again, I think we'd beat them. Now, I won't know that until next year, even if we play them next year. But anyway, I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of the stuff that we did wrong. Because in the Kentucky game, the offense wouldn't wake up. The defense played good. The offense was the reason why we lost. And the offense is usually not our best point. This season it's not. To the first 7 games, I mean, to the first game, 5. Yeah, 5 games, we had the best offense in the country playing Wake Forest, Furman, Middle Tennessee, and Georgia Southern. And I think that showed why we averaged 600 yards of offense per game, and the only team that was above us was Tennessee. And now they're kind of getting exposed too. I don't think that it's rust. I think our offense is not very good. We spent all the money this offseason on offense. We also beefed up on the defensive line with Walter Nolan and Princely Ulemane, and they both have been incredible acquisitions. Princely Ulemane probably a little bit more than Walter Nolan, but still, they've been incredible acquisitions, and we have definitely felt them, and the teams that we've played have felt them as well, even though that we have 2 losses. Lost to LSU, it's all on our offense. I don't want to blame Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's a minority of the problem. I don't want to blame the receivers. The receivers are a minority of the problem. I think the major problem is the offensive line and our ability not to finish drives. And also our special teams has not played good. Caden Davis missed the game-tying field goal late against Kentucky. He missed a field goal. He missed a 35-yard field goal earlier in the game against LSU. If he would have hit that field goal, we would not have been in that situation. But the blame is not completely on him. Trey Harris dropped a wide-open touchdown. We also didn't convert on a 4th down earlier in the game. A couple of 4th downs earlier in the game. So, I'm just looking at the mistakes here, 5-2. Jackson Dart said in his post-game that the only way that we can make the college football playoff is to win out. I completely agree with 3 losses. I don't think it's necessarily out of the realm that if a team has 3 losses, they are going to be out of the college football playoff. I think if a team, it depends. Because a team like Ole Miss with 3 losses, no. And I don't want to say this. The college football committee favors teams that have been good for a longer period of time and a team that has a more winnable and NFL style. Not necessarily an NFL style. That's kind of a bad comparison. But a team that always wins, not always, but has always consistently been winning. There might be a team that's better than them, maybe even a better record than them. Here's an easy thing from right here. Alabama. They were 11-1 last year with almost losses to LSU, Tennessee, lost to Texas. Should have been lost to Auburn, who went 6-6 that year. But a 4th and Milroe got them the win. But they put a team, they put them in instead of a team like Florida State, and that Florida State was unbeaten. They were 13-0, won the ACC, won a Power 5 conference, won the ACC, and went 13-0, beat a number 5 ranked LSU team, who was number 5 at the time that they beat them on the opening weekend, beat, I believe, 2 other ranked teams, beat a solid Miami team. I say something, I know that, Cage, you might be watching this, not the only Miami fan I know, that you're gonna say, oh, we sucked last year. Y'all did not suck last year. I know this year it's obviously going much better, but last year y'all were not bad, and I'm getting off the topic right here. We'll probably talk about Miami too a little bit in this. But but Ole Miss, if they go 9-3 with losses to LSU, Kentucky, and Georgia, let's say the 3rd team to lose to is Georgia. College Football Playoff Committee is not going to put us in the College Football Playoff if we have 3 losses. I still think that we have a chance with 2 losses. It's going to be very, very hard. We need a lot of things to happen in that top 12 right now. I'm looking at a team like LSU. I'm looking at a team like Clemson. I'm looking at teams like Iowa State, Penn State even. Maybe Texas or maybe Georgia, maybe even Alabama. Or even Tennessee. I mean, it's severely possible for Ole Miss. But I think the most likely way that we get in the college football playoff, and the only way that we get in the college football playoff, is win out. And I'm looking at, we have a bye week this week. It's much needed. We need that bye week. We're one of the only teams in the country that has played 7 straight games without a bye week, and I'm not complaining. I haven't. That's football. That's gonna happen. But anyway. But anyway, my bad. I got sidetracked for a second. I'm playing college football, as y'all can see. So what I was saying was, only way is to win out, and I think that everybody knows that our only way is to win out. Can we win out? I think it's possible. You look at our schedule. Our schedule hasn't even been hard. LSU was the toughest team we played, and we lost. They were really the only truly, really, really good team. Kentucky, I mean, they lost Vanderbilt this weekend. But, I mean, Kentucky, they weren't incredibly good. And, like I said, it was an upset. If we played them again, I don't think we'd lose. But, again, I'm not trying to make excuses. But, anyway. So, I'm thinking about... I'm looking at ways... Because I think we beat Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma's good. I think the only way that they can beat us is if they just stall us out. Their defense just continues to stall us out, and they get a late score, which is definitely possible. I'm not saying it's impossible we lose to Oklahoma. I don't think we do. We play Arkansas. I'm kind of nervous to play Arkansas. It's at Fayetteville. Last time we went down there, we lost in 2022. I think that we can win. I think we do win that game. Fayetteville's not an entirely tough place to play, but I do think we win. But it's definitely possible that we do lose. Next game is against... Then we have a bye week. No, then we play Georgia. And that's going to be the big game. Obviously, it could be different if Georgia loses this weekend to Texas. I don't think they will. I think they'll beat Texas. But if they lose this weekend to Texas, I think that I'll have a whole new mentality. I think we still have a good chance to beat Georgia. Even though our defense has played well and their offense has played incredibly well. But I think our defense can stop them. But I think if they lose next weekend to Texas, their season's kind of on the ropes too. So I think that game, if both teams enter that, I think that both teams will be 8-2. 8-2. Oh no, 7-2. If both teams go in that at 7-2, and that game probably determines whose season ends and whose season is still alive. I think that Georgia goes in with 1 loss, and I think Ole Miss goes in with 2 losses. I think that if Georgia loses that game, their season's not over. I think if Ole Miss loses the game, it's over. So, by that way, I think Ole Miss, I don't want to say, I don't even know, like, if I can pick if we're going to win the game or not. This game is kind of giving me vibes of last year against LSU. We were both in the top 20. We were actually number 20 coming off a loss to Alabama. Everybody picked us to lose. Everybody said, oh, Ole Miss this season, their chances will be done after. And our season ended later in that season when we lost to Georgia. But their season's done. They have no chance to have a good season anymore. They're going to lose this game. We came in and we won. That was an incredible win against LSU, 55-49. It was at the Vaught. This game's at the Vaught. If this game was at Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia, I would for sure pick Georgia. We saw what happens when we went down to Athens last year. We lost 52-17. But I think that this year it's a different story. I think we win the game. I don't want to sound biased. I don't want to sound delusional. I really do think that we win against Georgia. I think that we beat Georgia. I think that it's going to be a statement win. I think everybody's going to write us off. I think everybody's going to pick Georgia. The vault's going to be packed. It doesn't matter if we have 3 losses heading into that game. The vault's going to be packed. If we have 3 losses heading into that game, I'll have a completely different mindset. I think they beat us. If we both have 2 losses going into that game, I think we win. If they have 1 loss, we have 2 losses, I think that we win that game. I don't want to sound delusional. I think that we beat Georgia unless that we head into that game with more than 2 losses on our schedule. I think that's the only way we lose to them. I don't want to think. I think that we have what it is to stop them. I think Georgia, I thought that they were just going to be this unstoppable force. They're not this unstoppable force. I still think that they should be in the top 3, at least top 4, in my opinion. I think 5 is like 1 or 2 spots a little too low. But, I mean, I mean, that game's going to be huge. I think Ole Miss wins it. Then we have a bye week, and we play Florida at the Swamp. That's obviously a game that I'm a little bit nervous for because we go down to the Swamp. The last time we played Florida was in 2020. We lost. That was at home. That's when Florida was an incredible team, when they still had Kyle Trask, and they made the SEC championship. This year, it's a different story because they will have DJ Lagway, which he might thread through our defense. And then we have the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State, and I'm gonna get into that right here. That's also a game that can ruin our season. I'm gonna say that it doesn't matter if Ole Miss is up on them by, I think, 20 games. I think is the season all-time series is. We have them by 20 games. Statistically, we own Mississippi State. Statistically, we own Mississippi State. We've beat them 3 out of the past 4 years. We have beat them in 7 out of the last 10 Egg Bowls. The last Egg Bowl they beat us was in 2022. That was the last game at the Vaught, is when they beat us. Last game at the Vaught, they beat us in 2022. These is a whole different scenario. That's when they were a pretty good team in 2022. The last time they came to the Vaught when they weren't a good team was in 2020. That was when we both weren't that good, and we won. So I'm just gonna say this once. I think that Mississippi State has a really good chance of beating Ole Miss. I think that is their third most winnable game, their fourth most winnable game left on their schedule. Their most winnable game is UMass. Their second most winnable game is Arkansas. Their third most winnable game is Texas A&M, and their fourth most winnable game is Ole Miss. I say it because of Ole Miss, because we're not as good as a lot of teams picked us to be. That we're not as good as I thought we would be. I still think that we're a very good team, but I mean, that's a rivalry game. It's the Egg Bowl, dude. I mean, I know that a lot of people look over the rivalry because usually both of our teams are going into that game is not that great. Ole Miss and Mississippi State are not really known for their football programs. In my opinion, Ole Miss and Mississippi State are baseball schools. But, so, looking into that, Mississippi State's kind of a chip on their shoulder. I think that Ole Miss will be favored really big. Even if they have 3 losses heading in the game, I think, which is very possible that they have 3 losses heading in that game, that Mississippi State is the heavy underdog. I think that it is going to be an offensive shootout. I think the Ole Miss offense is going to come in because I think Mississippi State defense is not good. So that's how that Ole Miss's offense is going to be able to have a shootout. I think the final score of that game, I think Ole Miss does win. I think we do win. I think Mississippi State has a very big chance to win the game. I think that we win by the final score of, let me think here for a second. I think, I'm going to say this, I could be dead wrong. I think we win the game, I think we win this game 62-55. I think it's going to be that high scoring. I don't think there's going to be any defense whatsoever. I know our defense has been great this season. Michael Van Buren's going to have like 7 to 8 starts under his belt. We're about to get into Mississippi State and him in a minute. And he played incredible against Georgia. And their defense is better than ours. So, I mean, I'm looking at it like that. I mean, I think that it will be that score. Or something along that lines. Maybe not as much. But I think it's going to be 62-55. Ole Miss wins with a late touchdown. I think it's going to be that close. And I think Mississippi State goes in that game 2-9. And at best, 3-9. At best, 3-9. They go into that game 3-9. But, I mean, or 3-8. I think at best they go into that game 3-8. At worst 2-9. Because I don't think that there's a world where they lose to UMass. But, I mean, I think that's what it is, man. I think Ole Miss, I think we still get in with a win against Georgia. Right now, I think we're still getting in the college football playoff at 10-2. I think we beat Georgia. Okay, that's it. That's enough for Ole Miss football. We're going to get into basketball. The first top 25 AP poll came out. I'll just say basketball is the least amount of sport in college that I pay attention to. It goes football, baseball, then basketball. Ole Miss basketball, we have always been bad. I mean, we were solid last year. Last year was our best season in a while. We beat our rival Mississippi State. We beat Memphis that season. That was a good team. We started the season 15-0. We, in my opinion, should have made March Madness, but I definitely get why we didn't. We had a lot of big losses late in the season. We couldn't like upset a team, which is why I think Mississippi State got in because they upset like 2 teams that season. But anyway, for Ole Miss basketball, coming at number 24, I think that they should have kept us outside the top 25. It's fine that they put us in it. I really do think it's fine. I think a team that should be above Ole Miss is Miami, because they have now Jahil Patea, 5-star recruit. Ole Miss, they also have, I don't know what star John Bull is. He's one of the only recruits that I know we got in recruiting. I know that we have veteran point guard Sean Padula. He's going to be a solid player. We have that center coming in from Rutgers, I think. He's coming in from some school. He's solid. Solid defender, solid paint defender, interior post defender, defense. So I think that's where Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to have one of their best basketball seasons in a while. I think that we will make March Madness. We have a fairly winnable schedule. The non-con is way harder this season than was last year. We went 15-0 in non-con play last year. If we can go in maybe maybe lose like 2 to 3 games at most, like 4 games in the non-con, I'll take that as success. If we go undefeated again in the non-con, I'll take that as a huge success for Ole Miss basketball. But I'm just gonna touch on now Ole Miss basketball at 24. I think that we finished the season ranked or just out of that top 25. I think that we finished probably around like 25 to at most like 21. I don't think we crack the top 20. If we do, it's going to probably be like 19, 18, at most probably like a 16 to 15. I think that I don't think we win a March Madness game. I think that we very well could. I just don't think we will. Next up, our baseball. Baseball last year was a very disappointing success. We got walked off in the SEC tournament, and we really had to win that game to make the regionals, and we didn't. Congratulations, Mr. State. They walked us off. They took the season series on us because of that SEC championship game, or that SEC tournament game. They took it 4-3 because we won the season series. They won 1 game in the season series. They won the Governor's Cup. They won the SEC tournament. Hold on. 2. My bad. It was 3-2. My bad. I thought it was 4-3. It was 3-2. Mississippi State had us. Because they beat us in the Governor's Cup, 1 game in the season series, and then the SEC tournament. So, Ole Miss and baseball, I think this will be a much better season. I think our max get to Omaha again. I don't know much about our team. I know that we had the 4th best recruiting class in the country. Top 5 recruiting class is always going to be good. We had a pretty impactful transfers on baseball side. I don't pay much of attention to baseball recruiting. Ole Miss, in my opinion, this is our best sport, is baseball. Overall, as a program, baseball is our best sport. Last year it wasn't. This year I think it will be, because if our football doesn't make the college football playoffs, baseball will definitely be if they have a good season. Hush! Or if basketball disappoints, baseball will be our best season. Because basketball is always our worst. But last year, baseball was our worst, which is really never happens, because Ole Miss always has a good baseball team. Last year was one of the only exceptions, really, with Ole Miss having a bad season in baseball. But I think we're going to have a way better season this year, and I think we do make the regionals, and we at least win 1 SEC tournament game. Okay, get into Mississippi State. We're going to start with their football. Michael Van Buren, that kid is good. I mean, at first when I saw him in Florida, because he came in late for the injured Blake Shapen, I mean, I was not impressed. He was missing throw after throw. I mean, I thought he was terrible. Who'd they play? The Texas game, he was all right. His first career start, he showed flashes, but he definitely didn't impress me. I still did not think he was good, even though they did keep it decently close with Texas, even though Arch Manning lit up their defense. All right, next up, their game last week in Georgia. That was a really good game for State. I predicted the game to be close. A lot of people were surprised. And I think a lot of people don't really... They look at Georgia They think that Georgia is going to blow out every single team. Georgia's not a team like that, man. You take the year in 2022, their last national championship. They played Kentucky, who was terrible in 2022. They beat them 16-6, and the game was 9-6 going into the fourth quarter. So I mean, and they beat Kentucky by 1 point this year. And like Kentucky's way better this year than they were in 2022 so far. But I mean, it's just you got to look at it like that, man. Georgia is a team. I think the state game. I think it showed that they have flashes. I think that they really could upset one of those ranked teams that they play in football because they have the toughest schedule and they have the second toughest schedule, in my opinion, this season. I think if they played LSU or Alabama, it would be the toughest schedule. But since they don't, and Florida plays LSU, I'm fairly positive Florida plays LSU. That's the reason why I say it's not the toughest schedule. But, I mean, you look at the ranked opponents they have left. They play Ole Miss, Missouri, A&M next week, or this Saturday, Tennessee, and then a solid Arkansas team. Who knows? Could be ranked going into that game. And their cupcake game is UMass, which they'll blow them out of the water, hopefully. But I think Mississippi State, their defense is their biggest problem, dude. I mean, I've looked at it. Their defense has been getting decently better. Like, I'm seeing marginal improvement. Right now, Mississippi State, their best possible scenario is a 3-9 season. I don't want to sound bad or anything. I think a win over Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl, that right now is your best possible. This is a rebuilding season. This is the worst Mississippi State team that we've seen in a long time. Last year's team is 10 times better than this year's team. And it's not even the offense's fault. Like, I think if Will Rogers was still here, it wouldn't really make any of a difference. But Michael Van Buren, I mean, this guy's really good, man. I mean, he's a great player. He's a dual threat. He's got a strong arm. He's got a lot of potential. Next year, they're going to start him, and most likely, I don't know what's going to be happening with Blake Shapen. Since he got hurt, I think he's eligible for one more season. He has one more season of college football eligibility, like Cam Rising over in Utah. I think he has one more season left of his eligibility. I think he'll use it. I don't know if he'll pursue a career professionally. He probably will. But if he does, I don't know if he'll transfer from Mississippi State. I think if they tell him, I think right now, if he does come back, I wouldn't even start him. I would start Michael Van Buren. Because I don't think that Blake Shapen, I'm one of those people that think Blake Shapen played really, really good. I think that he was not the problem whatsoever. I think he was a really solid QB. I just think that he had a bad supporting cast around him. He definitely had bad plays here and there, but I think he had a bad supporting cast around him. And I think Blake Shapen right now is better than Michael Van Buren. But I mean, if you're looking at overall, I think next year what you do, you start Shapen to begin with. If he comes back, if he's still eligible for another year of eligibility and he doesn't transfer, I think that you start him to begin with. He struggles, put Van Buren in. I mean, it's that simple, man. He struggles, but I mean, a lot of Mississippi State fans, they want to point the blame finger at him as why they sucked. No, that's not the problem. And I know that not a lot of them are going to put the blame finger on Michael Van Buren. But, I mean, if you're going to do just as bad, because Blake Shapen won them a game. I get it was against EKU. But Michael Van Buren's 0-2. So, I mean, he hasn't won a game yet. And I get his level of competition has been much more harder because he's played number 1 Texas and number 5 Georgia in back-to-back weeks. Well, not back-to-back weeks because they had a bye week in between, but still, in his first 2 career starts, he played 2 top 5 teams. Blake Shapen played EKU, Arizona State, Toledo, and Florida, and he went 1-3. Losses to Arizona State and Toledo. A Arizona State team that I think is pretty solid, but still, an SEC team should probably get them. And then a team like Toledo, as a group of 5 school, they're not terrible. They're one of the best group of 5s, but they're Toledo. An SEC team should blow them out of the water or at least beat them by 2 to 3 touchdowns at minimum. And you lose that game, by three or more touchdowns. And I get that that's probably why that they want to blame Blake Shapen, because they lost. Mississippi State, that game was maybe their worst career loss ever. In my opinion, their worst career loss ever in their program. Their worst career loss. But you look at it from more of a standpoint like this, I think Mississippi State, what do I think about their football team? I mean, right now, they're probably going to go 2-10. Is there I don't think there's, I think there's 0% chance that they make it to bowl eligibility. Right now, they can only afford to lose one more game. And they play a A&M team who's number 15, I believe. They're at least in the top 15, I know that. They play Tennessee, who's number 11, which they could drop down because they play Alabama, and I think they play Georgia, too. But they could drop down, or they could even go up. They play Missouri, who's not that great, but still they're better than Mississippi State. And they play Ole Miss, who is still struggling, but I still think that they're really good. At least better than Missouri is. So, I mean, that's just how you got to look at it, man. I mean, Mississippi State, right now, they only can afford to lose one more game. And I think that game that you can afford to lose, that game that I think that they would lose, would be to Tennessee. And then they would have to win out because they'll have to beat Arkansas and then UMass. And those are the two guarantees that they maybe couldn't. Arkansas's not a guarantee. But saying if they were to somehow manage to go 6-6, another way they can get bowlers, but they can win out and go 7-5, but they would have to upset every single team in that top 25, which is probably not going to happen. But I mean, right now, I mean, Mississippi State, they're probably definitely ready for next season. Next season, I think, will be much more better. Jeff Lebby, he's dominating JUCO recruiting. He's an incredible recruiter. He's an incredible offensive mind. He's getting their offense to a point where their offense was always the problem. When their offense was the problem last year. But it's not the problem. Their defense was their strongest point. Their defense is their weakest point this year. I mean, it's that simple. Their defense is their weakest point. Their offense is getting it done. It's like Ole Miss has always been, where you think, oh, well, the offense is never the problem, or the offense is always the problem. It's kind of like this tale of two ends. Ole Miss, offense always good, defense is the problem. This year, defense is good, offense is the problem. And then you look at Mississippi State, and it was last year, and it's always kind of been. Offense is not really good, but our defense is great. Our defense wins the games. But it's this year, our offense is amazing. Our defense is what is having us at 1-5 right now. I don't think it's Blake Shapen. I think for one, it's probably a little bit of the offensive line and also their defense and their tackling ability. I think that's getting marginally better every week. Marginally, that's the key word. Hold on. But that's enough of their football. To get now to their basketball. Mississippi State basketball has always been Mississippi State has always been a solid school when it comes to sport. I think basketball is probably, in my opinion, their second best. I think football is generally their worst sport. Because, Mississippi State usually to always be a team that their goal is always win 6 games in a season. I mean, Mississippi State, I think that their worst sport, historically, is football. Actually, no, I'm dumb. Their worst sport is basketball. It's kind of like Ole Miss. They're better historically than Ole Miss basketball. Mississippi State basketball is. Last year, Mississippi State, they were solid. I mean, I talked to a Mississippi State fan yesterday. He's probably watching this video right now. He said that Mississippi State had a better season than Ole Miss did in basketball. I have to agree with him on, like, some points of that. He also said, we're going to get into this, I'm trying to avoid biasness, where he said that they had us in every sport but football last year. And if you're just taking basketball and baseball into account, he probably is right. I don't want to say that, but he probably is a little bit right, because we weren't that good. And basketball or baseball last year. We were better in basketball than we were in baseball. But I think Mississippi State and Ole Miss last year, you can't. Oh, Mississippi State probably had a better season because they upset more top 25 teams. And also, they made it farther in the SEC tournament. Also, they made March Madness. I think Ole Miss should have made March Madness. You look at Mississippi State and Ole Miss record. I think they had the exact same record with the exact same conference record when it comes to in-conference play. Ole Miss beat them in the season. Then Mississippi State beat us. So it's even, and in my opinion, it was even. I think that if you were gonna put them in, you had to put us in. Mississippi State got first rounded. I think Ole Miss would have got first rounded too. But I still think that if you look at it like that, who had the better season? I've got to say Mississippi State just because they made March Madness. But in my opinion, it was even. It was even. If you take out the March Madness thing, it's even. Almost Mississippi State, it was even. Like all around, it was even in basketball. They had almost an equal season. Yeah, Mississippi State might have upset more top 25 teams. If you're taking it off record-wise, it was even. They weren't better than us because really you can't even determine who was better than who last year. We both beat each other one time. So you can't really say who was the better basketball team. I think overall, in like a 7-game series, they probably would have beat us in a 7-game series. In a must-win, I would probably pick us to win. In a 7-game series, I would pick them. In a must-win, I would pick us. But that was last year. This year's a whole different story. We haven't seen each other play. So basketball for Mississippi State this season, opening up not in the top 25. I think if you were going to put Ole Miss in the top 25 and not Mississippi State, or if you were going to put Mississippi State, I think if anything, Mississippi State should have been in the top 25. If anything, I think that both of them should be. If you're going to put one in the top 25, you should have put the other one. Because Mississippi State, oh no, they made March Madness, and the average casual fan is going to say, oh, they had a better season than y'all. Mississippi State fans, oh, we had a better season than y'all. We made it to one more part of the postseason than y'all, even though we had the exact same record and conference record. And we beat y'all once, and we're so good we beat y'all, and y'all beat us too, but we're so much better. But, I mean, that's just how you got to look at it. That's how the casual fan will look at it. But I think that Ole Miss, I don't think really Ole Miss or Mississippi State should be in the top 25 of basketball. I think Miami is a better team than both. Arkansas is way too high in that poll at 15. Mississippi State and Ole Miss were way better than them. Ole Miss beat them by 40 last year in basketball. Mississippi State, I think, beat them. Even though Arkansas did beat Duke last year, but, I mean, still. So, that's enough of basketball. Baseball, Mississippi State, they're coming off one of their best seasons since they won the World Series in 21. They made the regionals. They were one win away from making it to the Supers. I picked them to go to Omaha. They had a great team. They had 15 players get drafted, the most out of any team. 2 first-round picks, and Jarangelo Sanja and Dakota Jordan. Hunter Hines is, I believe, one of their only returning starters. David Mershon also got drafted. But what's his name? Hunter Hines being one of their only returning field returning starters and the position players. I think that's going to have the lackness of depth and the lackness of experience on that roster is going to have them not be as good as they were last year. Mississippi State, I don't think they will be as bad as they were in 22 and 23 because they were pretty bad in both years. I don't think they'll be as bad in them 2 years. I think that their best case is to, again, make regionals, maybe get in the top 25, which is very possible. 22nd best recruiting class. Right now, a top 5, I believe, in 2025. And now, looking at it, I'll say that. I think Ole Miss will be better than them in baseball this year, more lack of depth, more returning talent, better transfer class. We really had a way better offseason than they did because a lot of their guys went to the draft. They put in a lot of pro talent. We had a lot of guys come back. We also had pro talent go, but we had a lot of guys go back, come back. So I think that Mississippi State will miss out on the regionals. I think that their best hope is to again make regionals. I think that Ole Miss will take the season series this year. I think that Ole Miss takes 2 out of the 3 in the season series. And we also win the Governor's Cup. So it's gonna be a 3-1 split. Worst case, the worst case in my opinion is 4-0. They sweep us, which is possible. I mean, I don't want to say it's not possible because it definitely is, but we don't always look to that. But that's gonna wrap it up for today in the little Ole Miss and Mississippi State update. Might have a delusional Mississippi State fan call me here in a minute when he watches this, or a Miami fan call me here in a second. But I hope that y'all all enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you are new. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.